Hi, I'm Bhavya. I'm the Blockchain Leadership Fellow at WWCode Blockchain. I'm also a product manager for global startups. I usually work as an independent contributor for various projects wherein I take up sessions around how to implement digital transformation for various industries.
Okay. Hi, Bhavya. Nice to meet you. I'm actually meeting you for the first time. So, really, really nice to meet you. And yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Archana. I work as a data product manager at WWCode. And yeah, apart from that, I love cycling. I also love biking. And I've recently started running. So I think I'm sort of like adopting the active lifestyle. And yeah, that is it about me. And yeah, I'm based out of Singapore. It's a very tiny island here in Asia, but it's a very fun place. If you folks have a chance to visit, you should.
That's great. Like I'm based out of India and currently I'm like pursuing my master's. So even I was planning to move into Singapore. Yeah, great. So, moving towards the topic for today about education and women in tech. We basically would like to discuss about how was your journey throughout college and what made you choose tech for your study pursuits.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very interesting question, right? I mean, like all of us in tech, I feel like come from different backgrounds. And hearing you worked with startups, right? And I come from a very different background. So I say like I have had like a very non-traditional start for sure. I actually took up electrical engineering in my bachelor's. So I'm not like a computer science student per se. And I actually I as you know, like we're also from India and I'm also from India, and we have like our we are taught computer science when we are in like our 11th and 12th grade. But when we go into engineering, for example, our exams are purely based out of physics, chemistry, and math. And yeah, I mean, which have something to do with computer science, but not so much math, at least. But physics and chemistry, yeah, aren't my strong pursuits, I would say. But yeah, I will. And electrical engineering is maybe not so famous in when you're picking up streams. But in the end, like if you're not so good at it, you end up getting that. So yeah, I did electrical engineering for 4 years, and slowly grew the passion for, I guess, working with tech. When I like and as I said, not a lot of people pick up electrical engineering, especially less, I guess, girls as such. And we had like a obviously like a disproportionate number of boys versus girls. We had like 67 boys in my class alone, and like some 5 girls maybe. So it was like pretty bad, the ratio. It's weird because we work with circuits, and it's not like a lot of heavy lifting or something that involves something that would be biased towards girls. But at the end of the day, like there was like less people for sure in that. And if you know anything about power systems, power systems as such are like they use technology that is probably hundreds of years old. Especially in India, you have transformers, you have circuit breakers that are easily hundreds of years old. And they teach you stuff which is about them, which is also pretty old. Like they use the old technology, so you need to know old stuff to maintain them. So yeah, so that's what the coursework is. But data is like pretty revolutionary to power systems. So we didn't like when I was studying, we didn't like study data science as such. We It was like slowly brought up. Like I brought it up to the people that I was working with. I realized there was like a lot of data that we collect in power systems, and that's how I got introduced to this field. So yeah, sort of a long introduction, I know, but I would love to hear your story as well, Bhavya. Like, how did you get into this field and, get into product management as well? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so my journey was actually quite different than yours. Even my parents were like focusing on me going towards PTech since I had taken up like physics, chemistry, math as my major during school. But then again, so I had been introduced to coding during very early stage in my life. Like I started coding when I was in sixth standard. Our school used to have a lot of competitions around building web pages and websites. So I was like very intrigued by it. And having a system of my own, like I was always on to learning some new technology or the other. So the decision was quite clear for me that I wanted to pursue computer science. And luckily, I studied in a university which was government funded, so we had more females than males to represent us. And computer science as a field, I think in India is seeing most of female enrollments right now. That is one great thing. I had a lot of inspiration. I had a lot of people to look up to. I had a lot of seniors also guiding me through the entire thing. So it was all in all a great experience. But yeah, my journey has been majorly with studying evolving tech, emerging technologies, and their applications in real business. So being a core techie, I wanted to like move towards more of business side of things because I felt like we constantly were working with technology, but then again, the businesses did not know how to utilize it. Because you look at it, what happens is we have a lot of females in the computer science industry, but they do not enter the corporate workspace somehow. That is a big problem in India that I saw. Most of them end up taking a standard job and leaving it like 1 year or 2 year later, which again leads to that gap. So yeah, that was my major journey with college, and I moved on and I'm pursuing my master's in technology and business management to help map through that problem. I want to create a bridge between technology and your business operations so that we can move towards moving technology as a tool and not as the end means to optimize business functions. So that has been my major college journey. And yeah, it's amazing like how both of us have had a little different journey coming from the same place. But then again, like tech has been the major driving factor.
I love the fact that you're trying to sort of bridge the gap between business and tech. As you rightly said, a lot of women, especially in tech, leave after a certain period of time, maybe because of not enough support or maybe because of personal reasons. And I think we have also seen that at WWCode. And I think that's like one of our vision is to sort of like even like work with people who have a certain number of experience but don't know where to go next, especially in the field, like maybe they started out with learning Python and want to move on to cloud, but they don't know how to do that. And I think that's where tracks like yours come into place, where people can end up learning different tech stack as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I joined in as a leadership fellow, one major thing I saw firsthand was that there was a lot of support for females looking to enter back into the industry, like people who have taken breaks and are looking to recreate the space and like learn again. So that was a great initiative. Yeah. So how has your experience been with the internships around college?
Yeah. I mean, like, so to be honest, like I started off as most of my background is in electrical and electronics. So I did not like fall into computer science internships so easily. And believe it or not, whatever I've literally learned about computer science, I've learned it via like the internet and communities. So I always like truly believe in giving back, right? Because we wouldn't be what we are here today if it wasn't for stuff like open source communities and open source packages, which we are so using it with so much freedom. And so yeah, in my internship, in the start, we used to work with like for example Texas Instruments. So so I've also built like stuff like inverters. So yeah, it's like it's very different from where I am today for sure, but I think like the journey has taught me a lot. I mean, for me personally, I relate with tech or I relate with like the field of data science a bit differently now because of my past. I don't necessarily look at it like, as a directional learning. Like, what, if I learned this today, I should be going up in the same manner. What I think about is, okay, if I learn data science today, it's a tool. Where exactly can I use it? And that's what I exactly did as part of my internships as well. And it helped me get far because, we started clubs in our university as well, where we were collaborating with, other people with other who are taken, for example, computer science engineering or biotech engineering, and sort of sitting down with them and asking them, oh, what did you learn? Can we apply it to my field? And so we came up with like really good projects. Like we worked on, using actually machine learning, deep learning for understanding power theft in India. So power theft, as you know, is a huge problem. You have like people literally climbing up poles and tapping it. So we were working with something called Smart India Hackathon, in which they asked us to take a picture of someone who was climbing up the pole, but we thought there's no way to verify if the person actually stole power. And so one way to do that is to understand the the energy readings out of households nearby, and then calculate if someone was actually going through it or maybe might go through it. So we actually applied machine learning for that, and this was way back in 20 I think 16 or 17. So yeah, way back. And back then when we actually introduced the concept, like people were thinking we were crazy, like it wouldn't work. And obviously, like, the data is not so freely available. So yeah, we started with all of that for first. And what I would say about the major part of college for me, and I would love to also have an idea about what happened to you around that, is have advisors, right? Have good mentors along the way. And as you clearly said, that there were ample amount in your stream, and it's also about just people believing in you. So just to tell you about it, so as I said, I was quite interested in machine learning. After that, after I realized we could apply it, I started learning a bit more about it. But as I moved from like my first internship, like I was right towards the end of college, was someone who just took a leap of faith in me and gave me an internship in machine learning, even though I had like no background in it. And I think like it was partially because of the hackathons and the work that we did, but it was also partially because this person sort of believed in us, and that made all the difference, because I was able to get into a line when it was like right when everyone was else was also getting in and learning about deep learning. And so yeah, I think like I'm very glad about that. I'm glad about finding the right mentors at the right time. So what has your experience been, Bhavya, with mentors as such, as you said?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I think like the best part about tech industry is the community, because community I think is what makes this industry so inclusive, and like you have so much exposure to different opportunities, give it be it hackathons or coding competitions. Even during my college time, like I was introduced to blockchain per se through a webinar, post which they had a hackathon around the same. We took that hackathon and we built a solution around blockchain where we were very nascent about what blockchain exactly is. So this was back in my second year in 2019. That's where I decided to write a paper on private blockchain. So I basically wrote that paper and circulated in various journals across Indian universities and got rejected everywhere. Then I thought that maybe I should share it where people might better understand private blockchain. So I just started randomly pinging people on LinkedIn and I started sharing it. And I was very lucky that I encountered a professional who was working at Athens Information Technology. And like my paper went through and they called me for an summer fellowship program for like 2 months. So I went to Greece for a fellowship program. That's where I found my mentor. He taught me all about blockchain. We did research around how the technology is evolving. Will it stay? Will it not stay? What are the possibilities in different industries? That's how I gained my interest in the healthcare space as well. So I think like the mentors have played a huge role in forming my entire career in blockchain again, because that I think that was the starting point. But then again, yeah, hackathon, like you mentioned, Smart India hackathon, that's where I implemented my first own solution and I won that hackathon actually. So our solution was actually taken up by Dubai government to implement electrical medical records forward. So yeah, that has been a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. I can see the learning from that itself, right? And I think the best tip to sort of take away here is to keep like, applying, keep hustling, and making sure that, you are going in places. I mean, I'm amazed, Bhavya. That's really wonderful.
I actually read it somewhere that there's a difference between men and women while they're applying for jobs. So men tend to apply for a job even if they meet like 20% of the qualification, but women they wait till they meet the 100% of the qualification to apply for a job. I think that's where we have been lagging.
But yeah, I mean, you clearly like, went ahead and you applied anyway. And I mean, rejections are a part of it, right? Like I mean, regardless of who we are, we get rejected. I think like we face rejections on a daily basis, but that's the thing, right? It shouldn't stop us. It shouldn't stop anyone from applying more and making sure that, you reach where you want to. As you said, I think like there was a mentor on the cloud track who was holding a session, I remember. And she also brought this up. She said that a lot of people don't apply when they see that, okay, I haven't reached a certain criteria. And she asked a really nice question. And I remember because back then the person was my who I was working with, like the leadership fellow for the cloud track, Brianna, she also brought this up. So she said, like, how, if you are like already fitting in all the criteria for the job description, then what exactly are you learning, right? There should be a few things that you aren't fitting. So yeah, that's a great takeaway. And you also talked about post graduation, right? That would have been a journey, right? Like, why, like, very genuinely asking here, like, what made you go towards a post graduation degree? You talked about the business aspect. Is that what pushed you to it?
Yeah, actually, so once I was through with my graduation, I started working as an associate analyst with Deloitte USA. And what happened was my work was majorly focused on research. Coming from a tech background, entering into a consulting domain, I was thoroughly like, I was only doing research. And I did not want that because I knew that I could contribute so much more and there was so many elements of digital transformation that I could bring in. So one major good, like so one good thing that happened with me was freelancing. I explored freelancing during my undergrad and I started contributing through minor projects. I used to develop websites for startups. I used to make their content management systems. That's where I gained the confidence of transforming a business and taking it online, creating a brand presence for them. So that definitely changed my perspective into how I can leverage tech to create a career of my own. So that's why I wanted to do more. And I was obviously considering two options as to go for an MS in computer science or to go for a management sort of role. But then again, I was unable to find a curriculum that justified tech in management. And I encountered this amazing course that was teaching technology and business management. So I just took a leap with it. Like it was a new college and it was just the second batch that was going in. But then again, the curriculum was very interactive and there were industry experts who were teaching it. So definitely like this, I have been into this program for 9 months and it has been a great journey for me. So we have industry experts coming in teaching us, and that's where I feel I've gained the confidence to go on the stage as well. Like I was the techie who used to sit with their laptop in a dark room and code all alone. But I think when you interact with people from domains like marketing, sales, you gain that confidence to go on the stage and talk tech to people who do not really understand tech. Because tomorrow, if I have to go to a professional or a CEO, I could not tell him like my algorithm is running an XG boost or anything like that. I need to tell him what it means, right? So that is one major transition that my masters helped me gain. So how has it been for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, like really a big applaud to you. I mean, it's been like I'm hearing this and I'm like, wow, that's a really rare, well-rounded experience. And as you clearly mentioned, that's like one of the things that people face is like the next, the masters I pick up or the next program I pick up, will it be the right one for me? And it's great that you went ahead, you figured out whether or not it actually fits you before you took the leap, because a lot of people are like they just go ahead with it and then they end up going like, this doesn't fit me, or this doesn't really does sound like me. And I sort of like, as I said, I've just been using machine learning as a tool in my like whatever I do, I use machine learning as a tool. And so I applied to like various areas, and one area that I was working with was edge computing. So edge computing is also applying machine learning or deep learning to microcontrollers or like edge devices. And I got interested in that. So right after my internship, I was offered a full-time position with the same company, and I worked with them for almost like 2 years. And so they actually gave a project on edge computing. It was actually pretty neat. We were working with a company which had a pharmaceutical company in Dublin, and they had like they had like packages going inside their industrial setup, and you had to basically count the pamphlet inside a medicine box, and that pamphlet is important. It's part of their quality check. And what the industrial space is actually very small, and there's no way to have internet access inside most industrial spaces because they are cut off. So what you need to do is actually deploy a model right there, and there's obviously a time limit given. So, and I think in our case it was 200 to 300 milliseconds per bottle that is going out. And so we had to scan the bottle and check if there is like a pamphlet available. And that was like the first use case, because we actually deployed it on a Raspberry Pi, and we used like a neural compute stick, which is a form of accelerator to identify that image. And yeah, that sort of like got me into edge computing. But as I said, I've been thinking about where I can apply it next. And I wanted to go back to working with power systems and renewable energy systems. So yeah, I decided why not do my master's in that and try that out. And I actually took up a research program. So I felt like I'm not someone who can sit in classes a lot. I feel like I am someone who does not like listening to 3 hour lectures. So I took up a research program which only had like 4 courses. So like 4 courses that had like 3 credits each, I guess. And the rest was doing a thesis. So it was much more like hands-on and much more working with a professor to figure out like, where the research goes next. So it wasn't like sitting in a class. So I guess that's where the question comes in, how do we make sure that the program creators us? Because yeah, I mean, a lot of people end up doing a lot of like famous courses, but then they get into it and realize that's not for them. And that's one great step to be taken, is that you know who you are before you take up a master's. Because yeah, I mean, in your bachelor's you're sort of like, you go through it, but in your master's you get to like take that decision on your own where to go next. And it's like it's truly for your development. So yeah. So that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, like as you said, I think the transition is already happening, at least in the master's curriculum. Like right now, when you say most of the colleges are implementing more practitioner-led learning and less of classroom learning. Even here in India, like we are having colleges who are calling in instructors and as who are industry practitioners, they're calling them in as masters who are taking lectures about how they're actually running a company in day-to-day life. So even in my college, like we don't have exams here. What we have is capstone projects. We have to build a startup from scratch. We have to conduct a drop shipping business. So we learn like different elements of things. And then again, as you mentioned at your internship, like you learned the edge computing. So you were not first taught edge computing and then you implemented it. You saw the problem on ground. You then tried to find a solution for it, and that's how you built it. So that's majorly like what we also do. We try to understand what the problem is, if there any tech stack that can solve it, and then we try to fit it to the problem. I think that's one great thing that masters makes you realize that problem is where you need to spend most of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you also sort of understand yourself a bit more. I think that's where like masters come in the, in your own learning and development. I think like you sort of start understanding, okay, this is where I'm meant to go, versus like I mean, we all like, I think like in masters, especially like I would love to know about yours, but like for mine example, like in tech masters, the first year I took up courses which were like extensively like computer vision, and ended up almost like getting a really bad grade in it. Even though like my work involved computer vision after that, but it was like traditional computer vision, so it's like more math intensive, more geometry intensive. But yeah, I mean, I realized I'm not the sort of person that can read that sort of thing. I couldn't possibly go in like 2D 3D thing, like which involves deep learning. I probably am good with just deployment and making sure that the system runs well. And so I think you end up discovering a bit more about yourselves through masters as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I've had almost similar experiences. So for my undergrad, I had actually taken a BSc in computer science. So that's a very thorough core curriculum, and it's like very core of every tech stack. They teach you computer networks, they teach you algorithms, and then you have math as well. So you have partial differential equations. Like it was a struggling point for me, and I passed it somehow. And then again, they're teaching me a lot of things like first normal form, second normal form. I went through it, but that's where I realized that my expertise is more in understanding what the technology can do rather than implementing that technology myself. So I'm more of a person, I'm more like a person who learns on the go, and I'm more about studying technologies that are just coming up and have not been created as well. Like I'm more about technologies that have not been studied very well yet. And that's again because, I'm not sure if you know about the Gartner hype cycle, but as it suggests, like a technology has a phase. So the initial phase is when it's driven completely by the opinion of people who are initially studying it. I think that has been my expertise. And had I not had my graduation in BSc, I would have never realized that. So yeah, definitely a lot of exploration happens during undergrad.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see that sort of like PM thinking you have towards
Yeah.
approaching the problem. That's a really nice way to think about it, Bhavya. And in terms of your, college life and especially like post-grad, I just want to know like, how did you supplement it? Did you supplement it with work? What was your, like, for example, did you have any loans, scholarships? Like, how did you go about doing your post-grad? Because I guess a lot of people who get into it have those questions as well. Am I financially able to do this?
So my mom as well studied from the same university as I did. But then again, she had a very limited response, like, but she had like very limited resources to pursue it. And then again, she could not go for her masters because there were a lot of barriers in terms of financial stability then. But now that I see the industry, now there are a lot of scholarships coming in for women, especially in the tech space. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship at my master's university that supported me greatly to pursue it. And that was a big motivation because then again, you see people who are constantly pushing you and they believe in you. That's something you get out of it. Eventually, it's more about the confidence you have in yourself than what you implement. And so yeah, that was a major part. But apart from that, I was already freelancing, and freelancing I feel gave me a lot of confidence in terms of my own potential implemented at global projects because there I was not just dealing with because there were I was not just dealing with companies who like see me as a resource and time my companies who see me as a resource and time all of the things I do, but more of what I can contribute in a shorter span. So that was like a great experience. I continued freelancing throughout my masters as well. So that helped me transition easily from technology to business again.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So, like, just to ask you a bit further, so like a lot of people, when they take up masters, especially, they have like a lot of courses that are going on. You obviously like have like 3, 4 courses that you have to do a semester maybe, and that's carry so many credits. And as you said, they have so many assignments, so you have like so many deadlines that you have to follow through. So then, how do you like accommodate freelancing with that?
I think it's again all about the drive. So while I was studying business, there was still a part of me that wanted to continue tech. I did not want to lose touch of it. In fact, I was a product manager handling a global team and I had a team of 7 developers. So I was responsible for scheduling a stand-up call for them and I used to schedule the call like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning because that was the only time slot I had available. So yeah, although my team hated me for the beginning, but they adjusted later. So I think it's all about the drive that you have and how well you can convince your team. It's all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean the hustle, right? Because you know that
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people also have this sort of misconception that they think that, okay, I mean, if I'm doing a master's, I'm good enough to get a job at the end of 2 years. But I think most people don't realize is that master's is just like a supplement. It just like maybe gives you a bit of an edge and maybe adds a few lines on your resume. But at the end of the day is like exactly it's your drive, it's what you bring to the table, it's your experience. So I think like that is something that should be continual in nature, right? And I'm pretty impressed by the fact that you kept that going.
Yeah, so actually, I was a very young professional joining in the space. Like most of the people I have in my cohort have at least 5 to 6 years of working experience. I have only worked full time for like 9 months. So I was the kind of the youngest here. So it was again a challenge because I knew at the end of the placement cycle, I would be sitting with people who are much more experienced than I am. But then again, I knew I had a skill set and I need to gain whatever I can from these people. So that has helped me a lot again. I connected with my peers, I learned from their experiences. That is also one thing that motivated me to continue with my freelancing projects because I had to compensate for what I had been lacking in number of years. So, and being a young professional, I think it's very essential you take that decision. Where are you in your life? Because people will tell you a lot of things, right? They'll say you're too young, you should go get some experience first to sit at that table. And especially if you are at a role senior than them, it's not very well accepted everywhere. So yeah, that's a big thing, and that's the great thing with communities. Like if you look at community, at Women Who Code, we do not judge people by age or experience. We completely rely on their talent and skills that they showcase on the platform. And that is true with all communities I've been in actually. So I think developer communities have that in common that they believe in the talent of people and not necessarily their age. Yeah.
Yeah, Absolutely. That's really well put. I feel like, yeah, yeah, it's definitely a very different experience when we step into communities. We aren't like judged for that anymore. And it's more like what you bring back. And that's really great. So how has your networking been as part of, especially like when I think about you, about like freelancing projects, especially, like what has your networking been, right? Like your network must be like, obviously community is a part of it, but what has your network been to get more like gigs, for example?
So I think communities again have formed 90% of my career. If I can give enough credit, I think. So what
Yeah.
happens is, yeah. So basically, what happened was I started freelancing. I saw an ad about Upwork, and I basically signed in. And what I started was I just applied for a bid, and I like proposed to make a website for $10. So since it was my first project and it was like quite cheap for them, they were also completely on board with it. So, and that project went well. I think I uploaded that project on my personal website, and that's how I started getting more contacts. And then again, I was attending webinars, I was attending conference sessions, and I used to go to Google development communities for different webinars. That's where I started talking to people. And then that's when I realized that the industry is really lacking people who can talk tech in general terms. Because yeah, so that's what I focused on. I shifted my focus from development to trying to talk blockchain to my mom. I started talking blockchain to my mom. I tried to explain it to her like in the very core, and trust me, that's the most difficult thing of all. So communities have played a major role. I used to go to these communities. I used to take speaker sessions for beginners, and I used to talk more about how to start with tech, because now that the industry is shifting towards, everything is shifting towards digital media. So there's a lot of demand of tech as well, and there are a lot of people willing to learn. But as soon as we go online, the resources are not so big enough friendly again.
True,
So I
true.
think that's where communities come in. They form, give you a safe zone where you are free to ask any questions you want to, and there is everything for people. There are different things for different people. If you are a beginner, if you're someone who's coming from coding, wanting to shift to a different tech stack, there's something for everyone to gain from community. So yeah, my foundation is completely built on communities. I love to know how is it for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I have like worked in the industry for quite some time. I've also worked with like academia, so I worked as in like worked with research and stuff. And when you move from like research to academia, like research to industry, I'm sorry, like there's obviously the shift as well. I talk to a lot of my friends who are still like doing research, maybe like a PhD student and stuff, and they often tell me, "Oh, look, I am learning like Python today, but tomorrow I'm also going to learn MATLAB and I'm also going to learn R." And I oftentimes tell them, look, I mean, it's okay, you learn Python today, maybe do a project on it, right? Learn GitHub, push it to GitHub, put some project up on GitHub. And as you said, start putting things out there and then slowly go on to something else. I'm not saying that R and MATLAB is not used in the industry, but it's used far more less, right? In terms of languages. And so it's important to know like what's out there as well, what is what's happening in the industry as well. So I think like that's also a gap that's there. And I again like love giving back to the community. I love going on like giving talks, etc. And I'm also building like a open source Python package. It's called Scale Down. It's primarily meant for edge computing and for edge devices, but what we have realized is that there is like a fragmented system that exists, especially in terms of frameworks. And we're trying to bring it together for edge devices and have like easier ways for people to, for example, start doing, tiny ML. And all of that comes into play. So I feel like whatever I do, I just make sure that I am putting something out there. I'm putting some content out there so that people can learn from it. As you said, I think like that is like fundamental to who we are today. And especially like what shaped us, right? Yeah. And like one of the things that we do is talk at communities. That's very important. I think like talking at digital communities sort of make you who you are. Maybe give like talks for the first time. I know a lot of people get nervous, and I think like you will also realize this during your sort of leadership fellow journeys, that a lot of people are first time speakers who don't want to go ahead and talk, but they have a lot to say. they have a lot of experience and they have a lot to share. So I think like I also started off just like that, just giving talks in these communities and then slowly growing in. And I also had a chance to, for example, land gigs via like Women Who Code as well. I mean, we had like LinkedIn as one of our people who were like we were collaborating with for the cloud track for event, and they talked to us about their instructor program. And I had a chance to apply for the instructor program, and I had a chance to do a course. And that's also a way in which you can give back. You can make sure that other people can learn what you have done. My course is on learning TinyML, but you can like LinkedIn pretty much hosts like any course that you want. And yeah, and via that you can give back to the community, give back to people as well. And that's also a journey. And I think like that also like provides a very good you know like in terms of financials as well, finances as well. Like I also did a course with Udacity when I was part of my master's program. And I mentioned this because I realized like people oftentimes think, oh, I cannot be an instructor, I'm just like a student, why shall I go ahead and do this? And there's like so much to being an instructor. You have to almost think about how you learned a concept. And I think being a student makes you like closer to it. And it's almost like reverse engineering, right? You think about how you learned it and then you go back from it. So like for example in Udacity, the first thing an instructor does is build a project, and then they sort of reverse engineer it. Okay, for this project, what do I think the student needs? What are the things that the student needs to learn? And then that sort of sets the objective for it. So I think like things like that come into play, wherein like you start like and that helped me a lot, because that like helped give me the finances to get through masters. I know like masters is especially like very endearing and like something that people don't immediately jump onto, especially when it's like for example what I did was I went to a different country to take up masters, and obviously you have like greater finances around that. And what I want to say is that as you talked about hustling, as you talked about freelancing, I would suggest is that people keep doing that. People keep finding projects, even the ones that you don't think you might fit, like being an instructor or being a product manager. There's always things out there that if you keep trying, you will eventually try get. So yeah, and the experiences make you learn so much. I mean, I learned so much from being an instructor at Udacity. I mean, obviously I took away a lot of finances as well, and that was great because I could pay off my tuition fee. But at the same time, I learned so much and I could give back to so many people. And we get these instructor reports, and they tell us the ratings, they tell us like who took the course. And it's very like I think it like completes a circle. Like it's like satisfactory. You would feel like, okay, I did something great today, I learned something great, and I was able to give back. And I think that is what is super important in life as well.
Yeah, I think that's the best experience one can have. Like as you mentioned also, that although it helps you help with your finances, it helps you get towards the financial independence. Then again, it gives you a confidence that okay, I have something and I can talk it to other people. That's what makes the difference also. Like when you give sessions, you realize that you might have understood the thing in certain way, but is it getting through? That's the most important part. Yeah, so that has been a major part for me as well. I started giving mentor sessions, I guess sessions for technical communities. I started with teaching students from BTech backgrounds, and what I realized was that I was very fortunate enough to have great advisors who could simplify things for me. But then again, there was a perception attached to it once I learned it. So I was very biased in my terms. Like even when I was teaching blockchain, I used to use like very commonly used jargon which were not very clear to the learners, right? So it was the feedbacks that helped me improve further and changed my color. It helped me change how I see things. It helped me change how I talk things. So yeah, that makes a lot of difference, and that's how I entered into the women who code space as well. I saw this position open for the leadership fellow, and what I realized was this would give me a platform to communicate better, to learn with people who have experience in the industry and can teach. So this women who code experience basically helped me gain a platform to share my knowledge with people who are willing to enter and who are willing to create an impact further. So yeah, this was a great opportunity for me to establish myself as an opinion leader again. And I think that is a great thing for me right now in the stage of my career because as in I moved for a full-time role, that this will help me establish as a young professional even with big teams. And I think when, as a woman, when you enter with numbers, with confidence, people listen to you. Like this is something my professor said to me and it stuck by.
Yeah, that's a really good advice, I think. That thank you for sharing that, Bhavya. And yeah, I think there's a lot to take away from the fellowship for sure. But I guess in general, like I was also talking to one of the outgoing fellows, and one of the tips that I usually tell folks is that make sure that the community is something that gives you the positive impact, right? Like it's like a positivity force, right? You be a part of it, you feel like you're some part of something bigger. And I think like that is something you need to take away from it. Like you cannot, like, there are a lot of communities out there, I accept, like you can go there, you can do meetups, but being like a leadership fellow and being someone in the community driving it, I think you will definitely get a wonderful feedback. You will learn a lot, but on top of it, you will also like get a definite like feedback. And I think that is something you can carry with you, even after this cohort. And as someone was like left like the last yeah, I was a part of like the 2020 cohort, I can definitely say that I still text people on Slack, and I still find time and just get on calls and just talk to people. Because and I think another best part about this Women Who Code sort of digital communities, that you connected to people all across the globe. And I I think that's like one of the best experiences, right? Like you're talking to me and I'm based out of Singapore, but I also know that we have like people from all across the world. So I usually like hold calls with people who are based out of US or based out of Germany, so everyone all across the globe. So also take advantage of that during this time in this fellowship, and make connections worldwide.
Yeah, definitely. Like even though I just started with my journey, I'm so excited to meet the volunteers as well. Like all of the volunteers I have are from different states and have a different perception of things. One of them is a lawyer who has no idea of coding but is so interested in learning blockchain. She's very active in the track as well. So it is about the experiences you get from these people, and it's also about how you get support from your internal community. Like my outgoing leadership fellow has been very supportive throughout. So I think it creates a lasting impact on you as to how to be a leader throughout. Like leadership is not only downwards in the hierarchy, it's also how you impact your peers. And I think that is a very important thing as women, especially because in industries do not accept as well. That's honest, to be honest. And there are not a lot of equal opportunities still. Although we are moving towards it, there's still a lot of gap in those terms. So it is when you are able to create that impact within your peers, may it be downwards towards the hierarchy, or it can even be upwards in the hierarchy. So I think that is something that stays with people. And that is something I've gained very initially in Women Who Code as well.
Yeah, and that's like a great note to, I guess, start sort of wrapping up, because I know we have like been talking, and I didn't find, I literally just looked at the time right now. I did not know the time just passed by. And yeah, Bhavya, like I learned so much from you, and even though we didn't meet before, I just felt so comfortable talking to you. So yeah, thank you so much. And do you have any tips, like pro tip for women, especially finishing college and looking to enter tech, like so that we can give some tips away? We've definitely been on this journey, and people would love to learn more.
Yeah, definitely. It was very great talking to you as well. And if I were to give a pro tip, I would just say for women to believe that they can do it and like just take that risk. Honestly, I think as women in tech, we always overthink things like should I learn Python, should I learn R, or should I stick to one thing? I just say that go with it. Like whatever you feel like, just take up a project and learn the tech stack around it. It does not take that long. And once you're done with it, have the confidence to carry it around. Have the confidence to say, yes, I built it. Push it on GitHub. I think like people reusing your code and the comments that you get gives you a lot of confidence again. But the first step to launch your first code, like to push your first code on GitHub again, is a big challenge. The moment, like, it takes 20 seconds of insane courage to like cross that barrier, and whatever comes out of it, it's always wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. I think like open source is a big part of it, but yeah, definitely giving back and also like doing projects out there is important. I think like if I were to give a pro tip, and I just want to make sure that I'm somehow like getting all the tips from our conversation as well, and I'll just conclude that in. And so yeah, it's like shared tips I would say is that I think like, look for mentors and make sure you're hustling. Like, never stop hustling just because you're going for a degree or something. Like, don't stop gaining experience. Try and look outside your, particular area as well, and try and find out various ways in which you can apply that particular tool, whatever it might be, like whatever you may be learning computer science or whatever you might be learning in tech as well. So yeah, and that's basically it. And yeah, thank you again so much, Bhavya, and I hope you have a wonderful day ahead.
Same here. Thank you. It was great talking to you. And yeah, this was my first podcast experience. So thank you for making it so conversational and safe. Yeah. With that wonderful session, I would just motivate everyone to take risks and step out of the comfort zone, try what they want to, and join our tracks. We have 6 tracks: blockchain, cloud, mobile, front end, Python, data science, which continuously bring in digital events and programming support to help you through your learning and career journey. You can even join our tracks as volunteers to support your journey through the leadership career.